Wealthy rancher's mail order, bride is pregnant. Circus performer, hiding baby from dangerous past. When a wealthy Texas rancher advertises for a respectable wife, he never expects a pregnant Mexican circus performer on the run from her dangerous employer. She's hiding a baby that isn't his. He's hiding his inability to have children, and both are hiding from truths that could destroy or complete them. This is a story where God's plan unfolds in the most unexpected ways. Hit that like button and subscribe to witness how deception becomes destiny. Samuel Hayes stood at the window of his empty mansion, watching the sun paint the Texas plains gold, while shadows gathered in the corners of his 40-room house. At 38, he owned half of Liberty County, ran 3,000 head of cattle, and commanded respect from Austin to San Antonio. But the silence in his grand home was louder than any prairie wind. The letter in his pocket had been read so many times the edges were soft as cloth. Isabella Flores, 24, from a traveling circus that had passed through San Antonio. Her letter was different from the others who'd responded to his advertisement. No claims of perfect domesticity, no promises of subservience. Instead, she wrote of understanding loneliness and had crowded rooms of knowing that wealth could be its own kind of poverty. Mr. Hayes, she had written in careful, educated script that belied her circus origins. I am not what you seek, but perhaps I am what you need. I offer not perfection, but a partnership, not submission, but strength. I have skills that may surprise you and secrets that may concern you, but I promise you this, I will bring life to your empty halls. Life. That's what had captured in him, not love, not beauty, not even companionship, but life in this magnificent tomb he'd built to prove his worth to a wife who died before she could see it completed. His foreman, Dutch Williams, knocked on the study door. Stage will be here within the hour, Mr. Hayes. You sure about this? Sure as I am about anything, Dutch. A circus woman. People will talk. People always talk. At least now they'll have something interesting to say. Samuel adjusted his black suit. He'd worn black since Mary's death 3 years ago, a mourning that had become habit. The house had been meant for her, for the children they'd planned. Now it stood as a monument to dreams that died with her fever. The ride to town took an hour through land that belonged to him as far as the eye could see. Acquired piece by piece, bought from struggling farmers and Mexican families, forced out by changing laws. He wasn't proud of how he'd built his empire, but he'd done what was necessary to survive and thrive in unforgiving country. Liberty's single street was busy with the usual crowd gathering for the weekly stage. Samuel's presence caused the expected stir. The richest man in 3 counties didn't usually collect his own mail, let alone his mail-order bride. Afternoon, Mr. Hayes, Judge Thornton tipped his hat. Heard you were expecting company. News travels fast. Pretty Mexican girl from a circus, that news travels at lightning speed. Samuel said nothing, watching the horizon for dust that would herald the stage. His stomach churned with an emotion he couldn't name. Anticipation, fear, or just the vertigo of stepping off a cliff into unknown air. The stage appeared, wheels churning dust into clouds that caught the afternoon sun. Samuel's hands clenched and unclenched, a nervous gesture from childhood he'd never quite conquered. The door opened. Passengers disembarked. A salesman, 2 cowboys, a severe-looking woman in widow's weeds, and then Isabella Flores emerged like a desert flower blooming against all odds. She was beautiful, yes. Dark hair pinned up to reveal an elegant neck skin, the color of honey eyes like midnight pools. But it was the way she moved that caught him. A dancer's grace despite the obvious exhaustion in her features, a performer's awareness of being watched despite the fear he could see trembling in her hands. She wore a simple traveling dress that had seen better days, but she carried herself like a queen. Her hand went to her stomach briefly, a protective gesture that seemed unconscious before she straightened and scanned the crowd. Their eyes met. Samuel felt the impact like a physical blow. This wasn't the grateful desperation he'd expected from a circus refugee. This was strength meeting. Strength while recognizing will. He stepped forward, removing his hat. Miss Flores, Mr. Hayes. Her voice carried music. Spanish accent softening the English words into something approaching poetry. You are exactly as I pictured. How's that? Tall, dark, and haunted. The directness should have offended him. Instead, he found himself almost smiling, a sensation so foreign it felt like his face might crack. And you're not what I expected. Better or worse? Different. Definitely different. He took her single bag, surprisingly heavy for its size, and noticed how her hand lingered on it, reluctant to let go. My entire life, she explained with forced lightness. Everything I own in one bag. You'll have more soon enough. Things perhaps, but some weights can't be left behind so easily. The ride to the ranch was initially silent, Samuel focusing on driving while stealing glances at his bride-to-be. She sat straight, despite obvious discomfort, occasionally pressing a hand to her lower back. The journey was long, he asked. 3 days from San Antonio. The circus? We had to leave quickly. Trouble? She turned to look at him directly. Mr. Hayes, we should be honest with each other from the beginning. Yes, there was trouble. The circus owner, Ricardo Delgado, he had expectations I couldn't fulfill. When I refused, he became violent. I fled. Is he following you? Possibly. Probably. He doesn't like losing what he considers his property. You're not property. No, but men like Ricardo don't see it that way. Samuel's jaw tightened. Men like Ricardo learn different when they come to my land. Isabella studied him. You're not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of any man who thinks women are property. Had my fill of those types during the war. You fought Confederate cavalry. Not my proudest service, but I was young and Texas was home. And now I know better. Fighting for the right to own people is no cause at all. She relaxed slightly. The circus had all types. Union, Confederate, Mexican, Indian. Under the tent, we were all just performers. Until Ricardo decided I should perform. Additional duties. You were an actress. An aerialist. I flew on the trapeze. Samuel tried to picture this elegant woman soaring through the air and found it surprisingly easy. She had that quality of seeming unbound by normal limitations. Must be dangerous work. All work is dangerous for a woman alone, Mr. Hayes. At least on the trapeze, I controlled my own risk. They crested the hill that revealed the Hayes Mansion, a 3-story monument to success built in Spanish colonial style with American ambitions. Isabella gasped. This is your home. Our home if you'll have it. It's enormous. Too big for one person. Been hoping to fill it properly. Something flickered across her face. Pain, fear, but she composed herself quickly. It's beautiful, like something from a dream. Or a nightmare depending on your perspective. 40 rooms for one man tends toward the latter. The house staff assembled to meet their new mistress. Dutch's wife Rosa, who ran the kitchen, 2 Mexican maids named Maria and Carmen, and old Pete, who managed the grounds despite being nearly 70. Isabella greeted them in Spanish, which clearly surprised and delighted the Mexican staff. Samuel watched her charm them with genuine warmth, not the condescension he'd seen from other wealthy women. Your room, he said, leading her to the suite he'd prepared. It connected to his through a sitting room, but had its own entrance. Until we're married, of course. Then, well, we'll discuss arrangements. Mr. Hayes, Isabella began, then swayed slightly, hand going to the doorframe for support. Samuel caught her elbow, feeling how thin she was beneath the dress. When did you last eat? Yesterday, maybe the day before. The stage stops weren't comfortable for someone like me. Someone Mexican, you mean? Among other things. He called for Rosa to bring food while Isabella sat carefully in a chair, that protective hand going to her stomach again. Are you ill? Samuel asked. Travel sick. It will pass. But something in her eyes suggested otherwise. Samuel had spent enough time around livestock to recognize certain signs, but he pushed the thought away. Surely not. She wouldn't have. Mr. Hayes, Isabella said suddenly, as if making a decision. Before we go any further, I must tell you something. The words hung in the air between them. Samuel waited, watching emotions chase across Isabella's face like clouds across the prairie sky. I am, she began, then stopped, hand pressed to her stomach. I am not. A knock interrupted. Rosa entered with a tray of food, soup, bread, fruit, cool water. The smell triggered something in Isabella. She went pale, then green, then bolted for the wash basin in the corner. Samuel held her hair back while she was sick, an intimacy that should have been awkward, but felt oddly natural. When she finished, he handed her a clean cloth and water. How far along? He asked quietly. Isabella's eyes widened. You know, My wife was pregnant 3 times. I recognize the signs. Your wife? You have children. No, she lost them all. The last one took her with it. The pain in his voice was raw and guarded. Isabella reached out, then pulled back, uncertain of boundaries. Ricardo's, Samuel asked. No. The denial was fierce. I would never. Ricardo wanted me, but I never let him. This child. She took a breath. His name was Alejandro, another performer. We were going to marry, but Ricardo found out. He had Alejandro arrested on false charges. He died in jail before trial. Murdered? They said he hung himself, but Alejandro loved life too much for that. Samuel sat heavily in the opposite chair. So you're carrying a dead man's child? Yes. And you answered my advertisement knowing this. I answered because I was desperate, but also because. She met his eyes. Your advertisement said you wanted to fill your empty house. I thought perhaps a child, even another man's child, would be better than emptiness. That's presumptuous. Yes. And deceptive. Yes. And probably the bravest thing I've ever heard. Isabella blinked. What? Samuel stood pacing to the window. My wife died trying to give me a child. 3 years I've lived in this mausoleum built for a family that never came. Then you arrive carrying life, offering what I can never create myself. Never. Fever when I was 15. Doctor said it likely left me sterile. Mary's pregnancies were miracles that couldn't sustain themselves. We tried everything. Doctors from Houston, specialists from back east. Nothing. Now it was Isabella's turn to absorb shock. So you advertised for a wife knowing you couldn't give her children. I advertised for companionship. Children were a hope, not an expectation. And now, Samuel turned to face her. Now I'm standing here with a pregnant circus performer who's running from a dangerous man, and I'm thinking this might be the strangest gift God ever gave anyone. You're not angry. Oh, I'm angry at the man who killed your Alejandro, at the world that makes women desperate enough to deceive good men, at myself for building this empty castle, but not at you. Isabella stood carefully, one hand on the chair for support. I can leave. Take the next stage. With what money? Where would you go? I don't know. Exactly. So you'll stay. We'll marry as planned. The child will be born legitimate, a Hayes heir. People will count months. Let them count. I'll say the baby came early. Who's going to challenge me? Ricardo might come. I hope he does. I haven't had a good fight in years. Well, Isabella studied him, this strange, sad man offering salvation without conditions. Why buy him? Because I'm tired of living with ghosts. A child, any child, means looking forward instead of backward. And because, he paused, searching for words, because you didn't have to tell me. You could have hidden it until after the wedding trapped me, but you chose honesty. That's rare enough to warrant reciprocation. You're a strange man, Samuel Hayes. And you're a strange woman, Isabella Flores. Perhaps we'll be strange together. That night, Isabella slept in her grand room, while Samuel lay awake in his, separated by walls and propriety, but connected by shared secrets. He heard her moving around, restless, probably sick again. He knocked softly on the connecting door. Isabella, do you need anything? The door opened. She stood there in a borrowed nightgown of his late wife's, looking young and vulnerable. I can't sleep. The room is too big, too quiet. Would you like to sit in the parlor? I could read to you. You read extensively. It fills the empty hours. They sat in the parlor, Isabella curled in a large chair while Samuel read from Dickens. His voice was soothing, cultured, despite his Texas drawl. She dozed, waking occasionally to find him still reading, watching her with eyes that held curiosity rather than desire. Tell me about the circus, he said when she stirred fully. What do you want to know? Everything. What was it like flying through the air? Isabella smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Like being free. For those moments between trapeze bars, you belonged to no one but the sky. Were you afraid? Every time. But fear makes you feel alive. Complacency is what kills aerialists. And Alejandro, he was an aerialist too. A catcher, the one who catches the flyer at the end of their trick. Trust is everything between flyer and catcher. You trusted him? With my life. And he never let me fall. Her voice broke slightly. until Ricardo made sure he fell permanently. Tell me about Ricardo. Isabella's face darkened. Ricardo Delgado inherited the circus from his father. The old man was hard but fair. Ricardo is just hard. He thinks everything in the circus belongs to him. The equipment, the animals, the performers. He'll come for you. Probably. Let him. The next days fell into a pattern. Isabella spent mornings, sick afternoons helping Rosa in the kitchen despite Samuel's protest that she should rest. She had a gift with food, creating Mexican dishes that had the ranch hands begging for more. Samuel showed her the ranch, teaching her to ride on his gentlest mare. She took to it naturally, her balance from trapeze work translating to horseback. You're full of surprises, he said, as she confidently guided the horse through a complex pattern. As are you, the terrifying Mr. Hayes reading Dickens and holding my hair while I vomit. Terrifying, I said. That's what they say in town, that you're ruthless, in business cold as winter. I am. No, you're protected. There's a difference. They were married a week later by Judge Thornton, who clearly had questions about the hasty wedding, but was too political to voice them. Rosa and Dutch witnessed both beaming at seeing their employer show signs of life after 3 years of mourning. The wedding night was carefully negotiated territory. Samuel kissed Isabella gently after the ceremony, tasting tears on her lips. We don't have to, he began. I know, but perhaps we could just be close. I've been alone for so long. They lay fully clothed on top of the bed covers, Isabella curled against Samuel's chest while he stroked her hair. This is probably the strangest wedding night in Texas history, she murmured. Competition for that title is fiercer than you might think. She laughed, a sound like music in the dark. Tell me about your wife, Mary. You want to hear about my dead wife on our wedding night? I want to know what shaped you. She's part of that. So Samuel talked about Mary, her kindness, her dreams, her devastating losses, how each miscarriage had dimmed her light until the last one extinguished it entirely. She would have loved you, he said finally. Your strength would have amazed her. Or scandalized her, a pregnant circus performer in her bed. Our bed now. Ours, Isabella agreed, the word carrying weight. As she drifted towards sleep, she whispered, the baby's moving. Already, small flutters, like butterflies. Samuel placed a tentative hand on her stomach, still flat but carrying miracle. Hello, little one. I'm not your father, but I'll try to be worthy of the title. Isabella covered his hand with hers. You already are. 3 months passed in unexpected harmony. Isabella's pregnancy progressed her body, rounding with life that transformed the Hayes mansion from mausoleum to home. Samuel found himself rushing back from ranch work and to see her, to feel the increasingly strong kicks of the baby they'd taken to calling Pequeño Milagro, Little Miracle. The town gossips counted months whispered about the hasty wedding, but none dared confront Samuel directly. His wealth and influence protected them from open scandal, though Isabella felt the stares whenever she accompanied him to town. Let them look, Samuel said one afternoon as they left the general store. They've been dissecting my life for years. At least now they have something interesting to discuss. It doesn't bother you the assumptions they're making. They assume the baby is mine and we had to marry quickly. That's better than the truth for now. But the truth had a way of demanding recognition. It came in the form of 5 riders approaching the ranch at sunset on a Thursday evening. Samuel saw them from his study window. Hard men on tired horses, the kind who made their living in violence. Isabella, he called calmly, go to the cellar. She appeared in the doorway, heavily pregnant now at 7 months. Ricardo, bye. Likely, take Rosa with you. Samuel, please, I can't protect you if I'm worried about you. She kissed him quickly. They'd progressed to such casual intimacies and disappeared toward the kitchen. Samuel strapped on his gun belt, something he hadn't done in years, and walked onto the porch. Dutch materialized beside him, rifle in hand. The other ranch hands took positions around the yard. The riders stopped at the gate. Ricardo Delgado was exactly what Samuel had expected. Handsome in an oily way, dressed too fine for hard riding, with eyes that evaluated everything for its sale value. Mr. Hayes, I am Ricardo Delgado. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I have nothing of yours. Isabella Flores, my performer, my property. Isabella Hayes is my wife, and if you call her property again, we'll have a problem. Ricardo smiled, gold teeth glinting. Ah, so it's true. The great Samuel Hayes married my little trapeze artist. Tell me, does she fly as well in your bed as she did in my circus? Samuel's hand moved to his gun, but Dutch touched his arm. Not worth it, boss. Listen to your man, Ricardo said. I'm not here to fight, I'm here to negotiate. Nothing to negotiate. No, what if I told you Isabella signed a contract 5 years of performance, of which she's only completed 2? She owes me 3 years or $3,000. I'll write you a check. I don't want your money, Hayes. I want her back. That's not happening. Ricardo dismounted, his men tensing. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, man to man. Samuel nodded toward the study. Once inside, Ricardo dropped his casual demeanor. She's pregnant. My wife's condition is none of your business. Alejandro's baby. Has to be. The timing works. Ricardo poured himself whiskey without asking. You're raising another man's child. I'm raising my child. The law says any baby born in wedlock belongs to the husband. How modern of you. But what will your society friends think when the baby comes out looking like Alejandro, dark as midnight, that one? My wife is Mexican. Dark children wouldn't surprise anyone. Ricardo laughed. Your wife. A circus whore carrying a dead man's bastard. Samuel hit him. A clean right cross that sent Ricardo into the bookshelf. Books cascaded down as Ricardo struggled up, blood streaming from his nose. You'll regret that. I doubt it. Ricardo pulled a knife, but Samuel was already moving. Years of comfortable living hadn't completely softened his war-trained reflexes. He caught Ricardo's wrist, twisted until the knife dropped, then threw him toward the door. Get out. Don't come back. This isn't over. I have friends, influence. So do I, and mine wear badges. After Ricardo and his men left, Samuel found Isabella in the cellar clutching Rosa's hand. Her face was pale, strained. Is he gone? For now. He'll be back. Let him come. But it wasn't Ricardo who came. It was pain, sudden and sharp, doubling Isabella over. It's too early, she gasped. 2 months too early. Samuel carried her to bed while Rosa ran for the doctor. The next hours were a blur of agony and fear. The doctor, old and experienced, looked grave. The baby's coming, ready or not, and frankly, Mrs. Hayes isn't built for easy birthing. This will be difficult. Save them both, Samuel ordered. I'll do my best, but you should prepare yourself. Often in these cases, we must choose. Both, save both. The labor lasted 18 hours. Samuel never left Isabella's side, holding her hand through contractions, wiping her face, whispering encouragement in a voice that cracked with fear. I'm going to die like your Mara, Isabella said during a brief respite. No, you're going to live, both of you. If not, if I don't, promise me you'll love the baby. Isabella. Promise. I promise, but you're not dying. I forbid it. She laughed weakly, always so commanding. The baby came at dawn, tiny, too small, but crying with fierce determination. A daughter with Isabella's features and Alejandro's dark coloring. She's beautiful, Samuel breathed, holding the impossibly small infant. But Isabella was hemorrhaging. The doctor worked frantically while Samuel was pushed aside, still holding the baby who might be orphaned, before she drew her 100th breath. Please, Samuel prayed for the first time since Mary's death. Please don't take her. I'll do anything. Take the ranch, the money, everything. Just let her live. Whether by divine intervention or the doctor's skill, the bleeding stopped. Isabella survived, though she remained weak for weeks. During her recovery, Ricardo returned with a sheriff from another county, claiming Isabella had stolen from the circus. What did she steal? Judge Thornton asked, having arrived to mediate. Costumes, equipment, a horse. Value, $500. Samuel wrote a check. There, debt paid. That's not all, Ricardo said. There's the matter of breach of contract. You said $3,000. Here's $5,000. Go away. Ricardo took the check but smiled coldly. You think you've won, Hayes? You have a Mexican circus performer for a wife and another man's bastard for an heir. Your reputation is ruined. My reputation. Samuel stood, and for the first time, Ricardo saw the soldier beneath the rancher. My reputation is that I'm a man who keeps his word, protects his family, and handles his business. Your reputation is that you're a man who exploits women and murders competitors. Which reputation would you rather have? After Ricardo finally left for good, Samuel returned to Isabella and their daughter, whom they'd named Maria and Elena. honoring both his first wife and Isabella's mother. "He's right, you know," Isabella said weakly. "I've ruined you socially. Society never much cared for me anyway. But Maria Elena, she'll face such prejudice. She'll face it with parents who love her and enough money to make critics think twice." Isabella studied him. "When did you start loving us? You the moment you stood up from that stage seat like a queen, despite everything. Maria Elena, the moment she proved she was a fighter by arriving early and surviving. And Alejandro, does it bother you that she's his?" Samuel considered. "Alejandro gave her life. I'll give her everything else. That seems fair." As months passed, Maria Elena thrived despite her early arrival. She had her mother's grace and what Samuel swore was Alejandro's musical gift. She calmed instantly when Isabella sang circus songs in Spanish. The town gradually accepted the strange family. Isabella's warmth won over the women, while her horsemanship impressed the men. She started teaching local children to ride, incorporating circus techniques that made her lessons the most sought after in the county. One evening, as they sat watching Maria Elena take her first steps, Isabella said, "I never thanked you properly." "For what?" "For seeing past the deception to the desperation. For accepting a child not your own. For fighting for us. You gave me what I couldn't create myself, a family. I should thank you. We're quite a pair, aren't we? The sterile rancher and the pregnant aerialist. We're perfect for each other because we're imperfect for everyone else." Isabella leaned against him. "I love you, you know. Not from gratitude or necessity. Real love." "When did that happen?" "Gradually, like sunrise. You don't notice the exact moment night becomes day, but suddenly the world is light." Samuel kissed her temple. "I love you too. All three of you." "Three?" He placed a hand on her stomach. "Unless I'm mistaken." Isabella's eyes widened. "But you can't. The fever." Apparently the doctors were wrong, or miracles happened twice. 7 months later, Samuel Hayes Jr. was born, fair-haired like his father, stubborn like his mother, and beloved like his sister. The town mathematicians carefully counted months and concluded the Hayes family was properly established. Ricardo Delgado died in a circus accident 2 years later. His catcher missed, they said, though some wondered if a catcher could miss accidentally after years of perfect performance. Isabella mourned not Ricardo, but the circus itself, the flying life she'd left behind. "Do you miss it?" Samuel asked. "Sometimes. The freedom of flight. We could build a trapeze in the barn. You'd do that. I'd do anything to see you fly again." They built the trapeze. Isabella taught Maria Elena and little Sam to fly. Samuel learned to catch. The Hayes barn became famous for its circus performances, drawing crowds from across Texas. Years passed. Maria Elena grew into a beauty who could ride like the wind and fly like her mother. She married a doctor from Austin who didn't care about her origins, only her spirit. Sam Jr. took over the ranch, expanding it into an empire that rivaled anything in Texas. Samuel and Isabella grew old together, surrounded by grandchildren who called them abuelo and abuela. The portrait in their parlor showed the whole family wearing the sterile rancher who fathered 2 children, the pregnant aerialist who brought life to empty halls, and the children who were loved regardless of their blood. "We did it," Isabella said on their 40th anniversary, still graceful though her flying days were long past. "Did what? Turned deception into destiny, made a family from broken pieces. Was it worth it? The fear, the scandal, the risk?" Isabella looked at their legacy, children, grandchildren, a ranch that employed half the county, a love that had grown from desperate necessity into unshakable foundation. Every terrifying moment, even Ricardo, especially Ricardo, without him I never would have fled to you. God's plan is strange sometimes. The strangest plans create the strongest families. As the sun set over the Hayes Ranch, painting the sky in circus colors, Isabella and Samuel sat together on the porch where they'd first negotiated their strange arrangement. The empty mansion was now full of voices, laughter, life. "I told you I'd bring life to your halls," Isabella said. "You brought more than that. You brought redemption." We brought it to each other. And in the barn, their grandchildren flew on trapezes, catching and releasing, trusting and soaring proof that sometimes the greatest deceits lead to the deepest truths and the most desperate gambles win the richest prizes.